The year I entered the Eastern Palace, I inadvertently offended Consort Jiang. To appease her, the Crown Prince demoted me to slave status. This woman's heart is corrupt. She is unworthy to be my consort. Before long, I became the lowest-ranked stable hand. 3 years passed without seeing the Crown Prince. Yet, on the very eve of my long-awaited release from the palace, the Crown Prince knocked upon my door. "Sister Yu, I hear His Majesty not only granted you permission to leave tomorrow, but also bestowed upon you 1,000 taels of silver. Yesterday, His Majesty's imperial steed bolted in the riding grounds. The horse was fiercely unruly. No one dared approach. At the critical moment, I stepped forward and calmed the beast. His Majesty was overjoyed and asked what reward I desired. These 2 things were precisely what I sought. I nodded. I took some silver from my bundle and handed it to him. "Qian, after I leave, take good care of yourself." He had been sold into the palace as a young page by his family and had served in the Eastern Palace ever since. Over the years, he had lost all contact with his family. Like me, he was essentially alone. Lu Xian gave a shy smile, refusing repeatedly before finally accepting my silver. "Take care of yourself too, sister." With that, he sighed again and muttered, "If it weren't for that incident back then, you wouldn't have to suffer in a place like this. Honestly, with your looks, you could be more than a secondary consort. You could even be crown princess. If His Highness had seen you, he'd never have treated you this way." I cut him off. "Don't talk nonsense. If others hear this, both our lives are forfeit." The entire capital knew the Crown Prince adored his consort Jiang. He wouldn't tolerate a single word against her. And it was precisely because I had offended her that I fell from a 7th-rank imperial tutor to a stable girl. Xian didn't stay long before leaving. I packed my belongings and stood by the candlelight, silently burning something. My origins were pure. After my parents passed away, officials close to the Crown Prince took notice and sent me to the Eastern Palace. Yet no one could have foreseen it. In the end, all I received was this: "This girl is unworthy to be my woman." Thus, I became a slave. Fortunately, I could leave tomorrow. Just as the paper burned to ashes and I was about to breathe a sigh of relief, a knock suddenly sounded at the door. Heavy and urgent, like a death knell. I walked over and opened the door. The man saw me and froze for a moment before quickly recovering. "You are the one who received His Majesty's commendation at the horse racing grounds yesterday." I looked at the man before me and nodded. Yes, I had seen this man from afar several times. She was Chenwu, the Crown Prince's personal guard. Sure enough, the next instant, he pointed toward a spot not far away. "Come this way. His Highness awaits you." I looked over, discerning the figure silhouetted against the moonlight. The man stood with hands clasped behind his back, his posture as graceful as jade. His face bore a cold, noble expression. Yet when he saw me, he actually froze. His eyes flickered slightly. It took him a long while to recover. Then, frowning, he asked with some surprise, "Oh, woman." Only then did I learn he had sought me out in the dead of night because he had acquired a fine horse today, intending to present it to Consort Jiang as a birthday gift. Unexpectedly, the horse was utterly peculiar, possessed of a fiercely unruly temper. No one could subdue it. When the Crown Prince was in a rage, someone mentioned me. Unfortunately, one person assumed that someone skilled in such matters must be a man. The other was so trembling with fear that they forgot to mention this detail. This led to the Crown Prince feeling some distrust toward me the moment he saw me. But that was fine. I hadn't really wanted to help him anyway. I aired for a moment, about to tactfully take my leave. The Crown Prince looked at me, then suddenly smiled faintly, speaking slowly and deliberately. "Very well. There's no harm in trying. But I never knew before that a young lady could be found in a place like this." It seemed he had forgotten. 3 years ago, he had personally sent a young lady here. He would never know that this young lady had once been deeply enamored with him. I saw the horse. A chestnut, robust in build, with a magnificent quota truly fine steed. When I arrived, it had just thrown a guard to the ground, letting out a long, drawn-out whinny. It was rather amusing. Really, back then, dozens of us entered the Eastern Palace together, all of us distinguished in appearance and character. I'd been filled with anxiety, pushing myself relentlessly to master music, chess, calligraphy, and painting, determined to rise above the rest. Once inside the Eastern Palace, who didn't yearn for favor, for a place above others, especially since the Crown Prince had achieved fame at a young age, possessing a noble bearing and striking good looks, truly the finest young man in the world. Yet, in the end, I never played the most enchanting melodies nor danced the most captivating dances. Later, however, during my days spent with horses, I gradually discovered they held a natural affinity for me. This horse was no exception. I spent the entire night and successfully tamed it. The Crown Prince had been watching from a short distance away. At first, he stood there, his expression composed yet tinged with a hint of weariness. But later, seeing the stallion truly become docile, his gaze shifted to me, his eyes taking on a somewhat intriguing look. As the first light of dawn appeared, he sat down, having watched me for an unknown length of time. As I pulled the reins tight and swung down from the saddle, he rose as well. Good. With that, he actually smiled at me. Earlier, I underestimated you. My heart skipped a beat. For some reason, I had a bad feeling. Sure enough, in the next instant, he continued, I hear you are to leave the palace today. Would it be possible to delay your departure a little longer? I froze. He seemed unconcerned with my response. After speaking, he turned his gaze to the horses nearby and said gently, I wish to gift this horse to someone. It must not be lost. I need you to look after it for a few more days to ensure nothing goes wrong. As his words fell, his eyes hardened with a hint of imperiousness, a touch of certainty. If you agree, upon your departure, I shall grant you one request. Wealth or safety, neither is beyond my power. My heartstrings stirred. This was a promise made by the Crown Prince of the current dynasty. The allure was undeniably strong. Yet this chance to leave the palace had cost me dearly. I'd shouldered responsibilities not meant for me, tending to those horses day after day, even devising a unique system of hand signals to communicate with them. When word reached me that His Majesty would visit the stables, I feigned a chance encounter, risking everything for this moment. Yet in that fleeting moment, I spoke. This humble maiden's horsemanship is unskilled. I fear I cannot fulfill this duty and would disappoint your highness. He raised an eyebrow. A hint of displeasure mingled with amusement. He studied me intently. Humble maiden, I replied. Yes. His Majesty had personally decreed that from this day forward, I was no longer a slave. He said, very well. Even so, did you truly believe my earlier words were a request for your consent? I nearly lost my composure on the spot. Rumors outside claimed the Crown Prince possessed a kind heart and seldom troubled others. Could they be false? Or was I simply unlucky? 3 years ago it was so. And now it remains the same. I no longer resided in my former quarters. The Crown Prince specifically had a dwelling prepared for me, situated very close to his sleeping chambers. This proximity was meant to facilitate my reporting on the horse's condition. Initially, he inquired only once a day. Later, as if something had snapped in him, he demanded updates several times daily. My appearances before him grew more frequent. Moreover, though attendance initially served him, from some unknown day onward, whenever I came, he would dismiss everyone else. I repeated those words over and over. The horse was very docile today. Your guards also tried riding it today, and found nothing amiss. The Crown Prince sat behind his desk, listening with boredom. Finally, he asked, well done. I'm curious, how long have you been a horse trainer? 3 years. I replied. He gave a soft click of his tongue. So you weren't raised in this craft? I shook my head. Of course not. Sue. You. He lowered his gaze, calling my name. I. Present. Have you been betrothed? Not yet. He fell silent for a moment, his features slowly relaxing into a deep smile. He leaned back in his chair, tapping his fingers lightly on the tabletop. His presence was commanding, his expression deeply meaningful. This posture suggested he'd casually set his sights on something. He examined it repeatedly, finding it rather to his liking, and he possessed the means to acquire it very soon. Very soon indeed. He was certain of victory. It required no effort at all. Truthfully, this job was quite exhausting. Not only did he have to commute daily between the Eastern Palace and the stables, but he also had to deal with the Crown Prince from time to time. It was clear he was deeply invested in Consort Jiang. Even a single gift required countless inquiries before he dared present it to her. Every day, an array of exquisite pastries and delicacies piled up on his desk, sent by the consorts in his inner quarters. They were thoughtful, but he only ate what Consort Jiang's attendants brought. The rest he wouldn't touch. He clearly didn't like them. Yet he didn't refuse. Once, a lady of honor sent some osmanthus cakes. He glanced at them impatiently, then shifted his gaze away. Setting his book on the table, he sighed softly. Every day it's the same old tricks. That's all they know how to do. After speaking, he looked at me. But you. He hesitated, his gaze lightly resting on me with a hint of appreciation. Finally, he simply smiled at me. So composed, so natural. You haven't eaten yet either. Come, try some. I didn't move. I told him that ever since I was a child, I couldn't touch osmanthus. Just a touch would make my skin break out in a rash. He paused slightly, then said no more. As for whether what I said was true, he didn't have the time to verify it. I stepped out of his study, furrowing my brow. He seemed to treat me differently. Perhaps even he didn't realize it subconsciously set me apart from his other women. He saw me as different. And this uniqueness had even prompted such a reserved man to speak his true thoughts in my presence. This was not a good sign for me. Crown Prince Zhao Xian, aged 19, had yet to appoint a formal consort. His inner quarters housed one secondary consort, 2 noble consorts, 5 noble ladies, and 7 imperial tutors. Beauty swirled around him like clouds. I had secretly watched him many times before observing his lofty bearing, his gentle and dignified demeanor. Now, finally catching his eye, it was because I was unlike other women. A horse trainer. Humph. After that day, I began deliberately avoiding the Crown Prince. I lingered at the stables until late each night before returning. At first, the Crown Prince showed no displeasure. When I didn't return, he retired as usual and did not summon me. On the 3rd day, he sent word that he had acquired a fine painting of a steed. It was best viewed in sunlight. The implication was clear. He wanted me back sooner. That day, I fell and injured my leg, arriving even later than usual. When I returned, he hadn't retired. Robed, he stood outside the hall, his expression cold. He didn't approach to see me, offered not a word of concern. He merely glanced at me, indifferently, then swept away. He ceased summoning me. I breathed a sigh of relief. He seldom stayed in the Eastern Palace anymore. When we occasionally crossed paths, he was distant and aloof. I inquired and learned that in a few days, it would be Consort Jiang's birthday. Once his gifts were delivered, I could finally leave. I endured, but not long after, when I returned late once more, I unexpectedly saw someone standing outside my door. It was Ah Xian. Upon seeing me, he first shared some good news. He said he had been transferred to serve as a personal attendant to the Crown Prince. I was astonished. He had always served in the outer courtyard. Back then, when I was flogged 10 times and sent to the stables, it was he who happened upon me outside and kindly showed me the way. That's how we became acquainted. Yet now, in just a few short days, He had such fortune. But he offered no explanation, instead grinning as he said, "Sister, you've been returning too late these past days. Don't do that again." I nodded. "All right." Moments later, he turned to me and said, "His Highness is waiting for you. Please go." My breath caught slightly. The moon hung high in the sky. The Crown Prince hadn't retired, yet had sent for me. What did he want? Had clearly stopped summoning me before, and I was about to leave the palace soon. His thoughts ran too deep for me to fathom. Yet instinctively, I felt an urge to flee. This feeling peaked when I saw the gates to the Crown Prince's bedchamber. My steps halted, rubbing my temples. I said to Xian beside me, "I suddenly have a headache. If I go in now, they'll surely offend His Highness. You must help me." Before I could finish, Xian's expression shifted abruptly. He shook his head at me, signaling silence. My body froze. Then I heard a low, husky chuckle tinged with intimacy. "Go on then. What exactly do you need help with?" He moved toward me slowly. Xian bowed slightly, then withdrew. I closed my eyes. The Crown Prince's finger touched my temple, then slid downward, finally resting on my lips. His touch was tender, yet his voice was bitter. "Speak. Why did you stop? Is it truly a headache? Or do you not wish to see me?" After a moment's thought, I replied, "It really is a headache." He nodded. "Oh, in that case, come in. I've learned a technique that might help ease it." His tone was earnest, almost solemn. My heart tightened, and I finally gritted out, "It doesn't hurt anymore." The Crown Prince still led me into the hall. He sat down before a painting of galloping horses. We admired the painting together, though not under daylight. We examined it in great detail, bathed in candlelight. It possessed a unique charm. Afterward, he did not dismiss me. He beckoned me closer and spoke slowly. "You, my dear, you ride well. You are beautiful, yet you lie constantly. I, for one, cannot tolerate deceit. Tell me, how should I punish you?" He watched me with keen interest. The palace chambers were dim, and though his voice was clearly leisurely and gentle, it made my heart flutter inexplicably. A strong sense of unease made me a little annoyed. My voice was stiff as I asked him, "Your Highness, your people should have already informed you that the horse is now very docile and will not cause any more accidents. Therefore, I should actually be able to leave now. Moreover, I am neither your consort nor a servant of the Eastern Palace. What punishment could possibly apply?" He stared at me in surprise for a moment, then slowly smiled, sighing, "You're sharp-tongued. You are indeed at fault. I, the Crown Prince, regard you as a loyal minister and trusted friend, confiding everything to you, yet you shun me as if I were venomous, even injuring your leg to avoid me. Tonight, had I delayed my departure a moment longer, would you have smashed your head as well?" Hearing this, I nearly believed all my previous suspicions had been utterly mistaken. Could it be that I was truly too self-absorbed, overthinking everything? But I quickly snapped back to reality. No, he was toying with me. I possess neither extraordinary intellect nor exceptional martial prowess. In this world, how many brilliant men still fail to earn his favor? What possible reason could I have to be regarded as his loyal minister and trusted friend? If word of this spread, it would truly dishearten the genuine loyal ministers. As I pondered, preparing to speak and probe further, an announcement came from outside the hall. "Your Highness, attendants from the consort's quarters have arrived. They say the consort had nightmares and is now too frightened to sleep. She requests your presence." The Crown Prince fixed me with a deep gaze. "I shall let you off today." The word "spare" was spoken softly, yet it carried a full measure of mockery. From that day onward, I was no longer permitted to come and go freely in the Eastern Palace. 2 guards were stationed outside the hall to watch over me. Whatever the Crown Prince commanded, I obeyed. I could no longer afford to anger him. He ordered me to discard my coarse, sturdy garments in favor of silk robes adorned with gold and jade. Very well. I complied. His finger traced the rim of my earring. His gaze filled with astonishment. I seized the chance to ask if I could visit the stables. He inquired. Didn't you say everything was fine? I countered. Then should I be leaving? He nodded absently, lost in thought, avoiding a direct answer. Instead, he asked, "Have you decided what you want?" I said I had. He stared at me, silent. The next day, 2 more guards appeared outside my chambers, on Consort Jiang's birthday. Everyone in the Eastern Palace attended. The Crown Prince didn't have me appear publicly, only to wait in the shadows. His exact words were, "You're not ready to show yourself yet, but you must accompany me on a journey to meet someone." Consort Jiang's name contained the character for snow. So the Crown Prince personally named the horse. He called it Snowlight. Originally, he had intended for me to name it, believing that having spent so much time with the horse, I deserved the honor. Would you like to name it? Or perhaps this was simply his usual tactic for winning people over. I declined. He seemed slightly displeased, but said nothing more. I couldn't understand it. This was a gift for the woman he loved, yet he wanted another woman to name it. Wasn't that rather amusing? The secondary consort's birthday celebration was a grand affair. The Crown Prince personally hosted the banquet, inviting not only the East Palace's attendants but also numerous court ladies. It was practically the treatment reserved for a crown princess. I had known Jiang, the secondary consort of the East Palace, for a long time. She and the Crown Prince had met 5 years prior during the Lantern Festival. Falling in love at first sight, the Jiang family's status was modest. Consort Jiang was originally unfit for such a position. It was the Crown Prince himself who pleaded before His Majesty, before numerous high ministers. He spoke with heartfelt sincerity. Since he could remember, he had diligently upheld his duties as heir apparent, never once slacking. Now, he wished to be capricious just this once, this one time in his entire life. His Majesty granted the request. The Crown Prince cherished his secondary consort, fearing she might suffer injustice. For years, he hesitated to appoint a principal consort within the harem. Only Jiang Yingxue held such prominence. I hadn't been at the banquet long when Chen Wu approached me. "His Highness says you should return first. He'll come for you later." Shortly after I left, word spread throughout the Eastern Palace that the Crown Prince would spend the night in the consort's chambers. I had assumed he wouldn't come for me, yet he came. Of course, he could only stay briefly. The consort was waiting for him. He seemed genuinely pleased, asking me softly if there was anything I desired. I told him that today was also my birthday, and I wished to go alone to the Imperial Garden to view the moon. I added that I preferred solitude at such times and disliked being accompanied. He paused, a hint of displeasure flickering in his eyes before he forced himself to suppress it. "Why didn't you say so earlier? My station is lowly," I replied. "A birthday is but a minor affair. To see the moon is enough to satisfy me." Surely he wouldn't go to the same lengths to celebrate for me as he did for the secondary consort. He was momentarily speechless, gazing down at me before sighing after a long pause. "Very well. I shall accompany you." I studied him for a moment before hesitantly adding, "But the secondary consort is still waiting for you." The Crown Prince's intoxication began to take hold, and he pinched the bridge of his nose. "Oh, right." After saying this, he seemed uneasy and added, "Then go early and return early. If anything happens, just send someone to find me." Me. Yes. With his permission. No one stopped me as I left the Eastern Palace. The guards didn't follow either. These past days, I hadn't been able to leave the East Palace at all. Tonight presented a rare opportunity. It was Consort Jiang's birthday celebration. Earlier at the banquet, I'd seen with my own eyes that the Crown Prince had drunk several cups of wine. I'd then timed my display of pitiable demeanor perfectly. Given the circumstances, he naturally became much more amenable. I found the eunuch I'd met at the horse stables before and gave him 500 taels of silver, asking him to do me a favor. The man was greedy by nature. He hesitated for a long time, but finally agreed. After that day when I admired the painting of the fine horses, I understood that leaving the palace would not be easy. Some plans simply had to be made. Of course, it was also possible that I was overcomplicating things. The matter went smoothly, and I felt much more relaxed on my way back. I pushed open my chamber door, yawned lazily, and was about to light the candles when a hand suddenly seized my arm. Simultaneously, a voice laced with hidden menace sounded above me. It was merely a moon viewing. Why return at this hour? My scalp prickled. How could he be here? Why was he still haunting me? Tonight's full moon was beautiful, I replied. I lingered to admire it. He snorted. Is that so? I rushed back especially for your birthday. Yet here you are, moon-gazing until this hour. Without waiting for my response, he released my arm and instead took my hand. My heart pounded wildly. In that moment, I knew beyond a doubt truly harbored those feelings for me. In the darkness, I couldn't see a thing. Everything about me was in the hands of the man beside me, renowned for his mastery of both literary and martial arts. He could see clearly even in the darkest night. So he gazed unhindered at my bed, at the silk robes hanging on the rack, at the unused rouge. He pushed me toward the dressing table, picked up the rouge box, scraped some with his finger, and pressed it firmly, slowly, onto my lips. I bestowed this rouge upon you. Why do you not use it? I couldn't speak, for he already held my waist, guiding my hands to his chest as he coaxed me with a teasing kiss on my lips. Each time I tried to pull away, his grip tightened, his movements growing deeper, again and again, as if he found some perverse pleasure in it. His breath carried the faint scent of wine. He was utterly sick. I wanted to bite him to death, to let him die right here. The next moment, he said, "Today, you've already met the secondary consort." So this was the person had mentioned wanting me to see. But he hadn't considered that I'd met this Jiang secondary consort long ago. Seeing her again today only brought back painful memories I'd long buried. Seizing the moment, I pushed him away and nodded absently. He showed no anger, merely turned to light the candles. Then he stepped before me, scrutinizing me intently for a moment. He pushed me toward the mirror before speaking. She possesses a gentle nature, graceful and virtuous. She now manages my inner quarters. As for me, I shall not appoint a principal consort in the near future. My expression hardened, and I stopped playing along. So, he smiled. So you may remain in my inner quarters with peace of mind. I bestow upon you the title of noble consort. His gaze burned with intensity. Be my woman. At last, he shed all pretense and spoke his true feelings. After all, according to our original agreement, tomorrow, I should depart. The heavy stone that had long teetered in my heart finally fell. The rank of noble consort was actually quite high. 3 years ago, I would never have dared dream of becoming his noble consort. But some things, once missed, shatter one's foolish longing. Later on, these things became both agonizing and unbearable. He gazed at my face, his eyes hazy with drunkenness. I know you're different from other women. You don't covet wealth or status. You're pure and kind, and your attitude toward me is unassuming. But if you leave the palace like this, are you truly content? If you stay, future generations will know that within these palace walls, there once lived a horse tamer. She rose to become the most favored consort Liang in the Eastern Palace, destined to rank among the 4 consorts, perhaps even attain the title of noble consort. His hand gripped my shoulder, his voice deep and husky. He spoke the truth from his heart. You know that eunuch who serves me in the palace, don't you? If you stay, you two can keep each other company, with you backing him. His days will surely be smooth sailing. He told you. The Crown Prince paused, then nodded. Yes. Some things clicked into place for me. Those around the Crown Prince were too busy attending to him to spare a thought for a stable girl. And yet, by such a coincidence, he found me the very night before my departure. I asked him, Your Highness, do you think me pure and kind-hearted? The Crown Prince smiled. I do. Did he even realize how utterly self-contradictory his words were? Back then, separated by a palace gate, he was inside coaxing a secondary consort, while I endured punishment outside. What had he called me? A scheming woman. If I was so scheming, why would I ever sacrifice myself for another? Xian was a man of the Eastern Palace, had pledged his loyalty to the Crown Prince himself, earning the chance to serve him closely. So what did his future or fate have to do with me? I didn't answer directly. Instead, I nudged him. Your scent, Your Highness. It's a bit unpleasant. The Crown Prince sobered instantly, sniffed his sleeve, and instinctively moved away from me. Then he blurted out hastily, In any case, you won't be leaving tomorrow. Think it over carefully. With that, he hurried off without waiting for my reply. Ever since laying this matter bare, the Crown Prince grew increasingly unguarded in my presence. Feeling indebted for missing my birthday celebration, he specially sought out all manner of rare treasures to make amends. He seldom visited the inner quarters anymore. He spent every day with me. Of course, I paid him little mind. Most of the time, we each went about our own business. Yet he seemed to relish it, lingering longer each day. My resolve gradually softened. Finally, one day, after he personally arranged my hair into a rather unflattering bun, I asked him, What if I said, I want to be Crown Princess? The Crown Prince's expression stiffened slightly, and he abruptly released my shoulder. Then, without looking back, he left. Sitting before the mirror, I breathed a sigh of relief. I'd made up my mind. The most direct and forceful way to leave the palace was to spread this news. Best if it reached the emperor's ears. A mere consort Liang. How could that be enough? Truly, what he had promised before few women in this world would refuse. Yet I had no regrets. Today, he found me novel, naturally. His words were sincere, his promises heartfelt. But tomorrow, when another woman of equal beauty appeared, she a kitchen maid, a street performer, or a female constable, she too would captivate his heart. Then, I would hold no special place in his eyes. Shortly after the Crown Prince departed, Xian arrived at my courtyard to speak with me quietly. Sister Yu. His Highness went to his study, looking rather displeased. Shouldn't you go see him? I said nothing, only smiled at him. Perhaps my smile was unsettling, for Xian pursed his lips. Sister. My voice was muffled, yet utterly certain. Xian, we've known each other for years. Why must you harm me like this? Sweat slowly trickled down Xian's forehead. What do you mean? I whispered softly. The one who recommended me to His Highness. It was you, wasn't it? At first, Xian denied it. He had always known. I had wanted to leave the palace for so many years. Later, when he realized he couldn't hide it any longer, he finally confessed, crying. Sister, I admit it. Back then, I was blinded by ambition. I wanted to impress His Highness. So I told him you were an exceptional horseman, even honored by His Majesty. But I did it for you. With your talents, wouldn't it be a waste to leave? His Highness has taken a liking to you now. If you stay, it'll help you climb higher. You could become someone truly great. Don't you think? Sister, I gritted my teeth. Get out. I had thought him naturally shy and young, even worrying if he might be harmed by others. Now it seems I worried needlessly. In a place like the palace, what genuine kindness could there be? My judgment of people was truly poor. I once thought the Crown Prince was a pure, noble moon, a true gentleman. But after spending time with him, I now realize he's nothing special. After that night, the Crown Prince didn't come to see me for several days. I did not seek him out either. On the 5th day, Qin Wu came to find me, conveying the Crown Prince's message. He wished for me to compromise the position of principal consort was out of the question. But he could offer me the rank of secondary consort. I did not agree immediately, yet I sought him out several times of my own accord, not with great enthusiasm. Nor did I truly give him any answer. Yet he seemed quite pleased. My demeanor in public grew increasingly haughty and dismissive, a stark departure from my former docility. He indulged this change. He believed I was putting on airs because I knew I could never become crown princess. He even coaxed me several times over it. He explicitly ordered that no one was to bring him food anymore. Occasionally, in his presence, I would let a hint of feminine charm show, then deliberately ask him. I truly wish to be crown princess. I refused to stay in the palace before precisely because I wanted to be with my beloved. Just the two of us, as true husband and wife, and only the crown princess can be your wife. I spoke with genuine sincerity, not just the crown prince. But even I began to believe it. At first, the crown prince would scold me, forbidding me to utter such words again, fearing others might hear. I agreed to everything. He felt even more guilty, but not long after. Rumors began circulating from who knows where. They said the crown prince wanted to make a horse trainer his crown princess. This rumor was utterly preposterous. Some believed it, while others naturally dismissed it, until someone witnessed the crown prince arguing with his consort. The consort confronted him, demanding to know if there was any truth to the rumor. The crown prince initially tried to soothe her with patience, but the secondary consort wouldn't relent, hurling more insults at this rumored horse tamer. The crown prince's brow furrowed deeper with each word. Finally, words slipped out before he could stop them. Even if I truly intended it, so what? So what? The moment those words left his mouth, the secondary consort went mad. 3 years later, the concubine and I finally met again. She stormed into my courtyard, found me, and instinctively tried to slap me. But after living in pampered luxury for so long, her strength was pitifully weak. I easily seized her arm. Then, I struck her hard across the face. The sharp smack echoed through the hall. The crown prince rushed in from outside. Before he could even see what had happened, he roared angrily, "Jiang Yingxue! Who gave you permission to cause a scene here?" Consort Jiang snapped back to her senses, clutching her face. "Your Highness, look closely. She struck me first." The crown prince froze. Just then, Consort Jiang suddenly fixed her gaze on me and murmured, "The horse tamer. Your surname is Su. I've seen you before." "No, I know you." The crown prince snapped back to reality, irritation rising. "What nonsense are you spouting? How could you possibly know her?" "Guards, take the consort away immediately." But Consort Jiang suddenly laughed, pointing at me and asking the crown prince, "Your Highness, don't you know, she was never just some horse tamer girl. 3 years ago, she was right here in the rear courtyard of the Eastern Palace, your woman, your imperial tutor." At these words, the crown prince's gaze fell upon me. His eyes held confusion, tinged with sudden realization and disbelief. The consort continued from the side, "Your Highness, surely you remember. That day you forgot to eat the pastries I sent you. I threw a little tantrum, sulking with you. When I came out, I happened to run into her, this very Su Zhaoxuan. She accidentally bumped into me, and to appease me, you punished her. I recall it was 10 strokes of the cane before she was sent away to become a horse trainer." As these words fell, the crown prince's face turned deathly pale. From his childhood studies with the grand tutor, he was praised for his photographic memory. With the consort having spoken so explicitly, how could he possibly not remember? His voice cracked as he looked at me, as if explaining, "I recall. I did not see you then. Of course not. His heart and eyes were fixed solely on the woman in his arms. How could he possibly notice anyone else? I nodded, then told him, originally, in just 2 more days. It would have been my turn to attend the bedchamber. Only 2 days more. Just 2 days. He finally understood. All these days, had caressed the thick calluses on my palms, uttering words of tenderness how utterly laughable they now seemed. He found the presence of a woman at the stables remarkable. He was even astonished by my horsemanship. Yet he never imagined that all of this every single bit was actually his doing. Without him, how could I have become who I am today? But perhaps he would think, if only that incident hadn't happened back then, he and I might have had a future. The Crown Prince's expression darkened further. He stared at me, his thin lips pressed together, a shadow of anger clouding his face. Consort Jiang tried to speak again, but the Crown Prince could no longer contain his rage. Get out. All of you. Get out. One more word from any of you, and I'll chop off your head. Only after everyone had withdrawn did the Crown Prince fix his gaze upon me. Speak. From beginning to end. How many words spoken before me were truly yours? I looked at him. After a moment of studying his expression, I finally spoke. The claim I couldn't touch osmanthus was false. I actually adore osmanthus cakes. The injury to my leg was fabricated, for I wished to avoid seeing you. That day was never my birthday. At this, the Crown Prince lifted an eyelid, a mocking smile curling his lips. Was wanting to be my crown princess also a lie? I said, yes. My mind has never wavered. I only wish to leave the palace. He had been deceived by my facade. Lowering his guard, now, understanding my intent, he quickly pieced everything together. You were the one who spread those rumors. It cost 500 taels of silver. But judging by the current results, it was worth it. Yingxue has an impatient temper. You calculated this precisely, knowing she would come looking for trouble. I looked at him. Yes. With Consort Jiang causing such a commotion, His Majesty would be hard-pressed to remain unaware, even if he never truly intended to make me crown princess. I asked him, Your Highness is the heir apparent, the future ruler of this realm. One romantic escapade should suffice, shouldn't it? He declared before His Majesty and the senior ministers that had only indulged his whims once. What he originally intended for me was the position of a minor consort. For a horse tamer to be a mere consort Liang, that would indeed be harmless. But to be crown princess, that would invite ridicule. Still, I never imagined the crown prince would utter those words even if I truly intended it. So what? The crown prince gripped my shoulders. No. That doesn't count. You are already mine. I'll explain to Father Emperor and proclaim to all that you are my imperial consort. Then I can rightfully make you my consort Liang. He gritted his teeth. No. Not consort Liang. You shall be my principal consort. As he spoke, his voice trembled, for he knew too well how impossible this was. No future crown princess or empress had ever been a horse trainer. I sighed. But I truly don't love you. I don't want to be with you. What can we do? The crown prince froze. Then after a long moment, his rage twisted into a bitter laugh. He fixed me with a piercing stare. Fine. Fine. Since that is your wish, I shall grant it. That very night, the emperor summoned the crown prince and berated him harshly. He even dispatched a personal eunuch to find me. Since you've received His Majesty's favor, you should depart promptly. Lingering these extra days only invites disaster. The emperor decrees you must never set foot within the palace gates again, for the rest of my life. It sounded rather melodious. With the emperor's decree, even after his passing when the crown prince ascended the throne, I would never again be permitted to enter the palace. The emperor's intent was for me to depart immediately. I dared not delay and began packing my belongings at once. Yet, as I reached the palace gates, someone spurred a horse up behind me, cutting across my path and blocking my exit. Not long after, Chen Wu and Xian hurried up from behind. The crown prince looked down at me from above, his expression cold, just like when we first met. Only this time, his face looked much more haggard, and he seemed far less composed than before. Leaving already? I nodded. Yes. He inquired. Earlier, you said you had already decided what to ask of me. I did not press you then. Speak now. Truthfully, I hadn't thought it through at the time, but now, since he had personally pursued me to ask, it would be a shame not to make a request. I said, Your Highness seems to hold women in low regard. What I seek might prove difficult for you. His voice was deep. Speak freely. I stepped closer. Your Highness. Lean in. He lowered his head. You promised me security. I've thought long and hard. As a woman, alone in this world, even with gold, silver, and deeds to property, I fear I cannot truly protect myself. A woman cannot establish her own household, no matter how much I possess. Others will come to seize it. I cannot change this fate, but Your Highness can. Can you not? The crown prince tightened his grip on the reins. After a long pause, he gave a faint smile. 3 months after leaving the palace, I received a letter. It was sent by Xian through an intermediary. He wasn't very literate, so his handwriting was crooked and messy. The entire letter contained only about 20 characters, half of which were misspelled. He told me this with great care. That day, after I left, the crown prince asked him a question I ask you. When exactly is her birthday? Xian said he answered truthfully. The crown prince's expression had been deeply unsettled, nearly prompting him to storm out of the palace to find me. He asked me if I might be in trouble. I didn't write back. Soon after, I moved to a new residence. This place was still the one Xian had secretly bought for me back then, and my birthday was indeed that day, the same day as Consort Jiang's. The end.